Okay, let's go ahead and continue developing our model, developing our templates, and learning to use some of the tools that we can use for, let's say, exceptions to the rule, so to speak. Let me just zoom out a little bit here so you can see what's going on. You can see we've got some work to do. We've made some progress, but we definitely need additional work to continue developing the model through this area. Okay, so I guess we can start about anywhere here, but this one seems pretty obvious, so I think we'll just start here. Going into this project, we knew that we could not purchase right-of-way, so ideally we want to go with a 1-to-3 back slope, but we would be willing to go a little bit steeper than that for short distances if we have to, just so that we don't have to purchase right-of-way, right? So we started off when we added all these components and in conditions to the template. We used an in condition that was a 1-to-3, and we could see that by now that we're dynamically visualizing a cross section. We could go out and just, let's see, yeah, there we go. We could see that it's negative 33%, which is a 1-to-3 back slope. And now really all these views really help us out here, so you can kind of see what's going on. I can look in this 2D view. I can see that there's that red line. That's my existing right-of-way line. I can see the corridor. I can see this outside edge of the corridor is really the construction limits, and I can see that goes beyond the existing right-of-way. So what I would like to do here is stick with the 1-to-3 back slope, with the exception of just in this area. I would like to override that in condition to make sure that we stay within right-of-way. Now there's multiple ways that we could do this, and again, the best way to do this may not be this way, but I guess what I'm getting at is that this is what I did on this particular project anyway. There's multiple ways. We could use parametric constraints. We can do horizontal feature constraints. There's so many different methods that we could use, but this first method that I will show you is the method I use. Again, you might not think it's the best method, and that's okay. Learn the fundamentals and decide however you would like to control your template. So let me go ahead and show you one way. Okay. What I did here is I'm basically want to say from here to here, I want this back slope to be variable, and I want it to tie in just inside of the right-of-way. So what I did was I just used, I set my feature definition up here. I use this particular one, fix, tie, seek. There's multiple ones I could have used. Use that one. Let's see, what else did I do? I went to geometry, offsets and tapers, just a partial. And then I set my offset to 1. And then I just clicked on that right-of-way. And then I went just a little beyond where the back slope starts getting into the existing right-of-way. And then we'll extend that, kind of the same idea, over on the other side. We'll data point to accept it. And now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to select this corridor, And let's see, let's use, I want to make, let's see, guess I'm getting distracted by those pop-ups. Let's do it this way. Here's one way. We can grab our bucket and we select the corridor, and here we can very easily see what has been added to that corridor so far. And I would like to add this particular line as an external reference. So I'm going to do that. Actually, I think before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and use this line both horizontally and vertically, both. And it's set horizontally. Let's open up a profile window. And let's make that the active profile. And so that way we can use this line that we placed out there to override that in condition both horizontally and vertically. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use a point control, and I'll show you how we go about that. If we've used our bucket up here and we've selected the corridor, we can add our point controls here. Once you learn all the icons, which I guess haven't mastered yet, you could go over here to these tools, and once you know what all these icons represent, or you just hover over it and it'll tell you what it is. That's either way, you get the same result. So in any case, we're going to add a point control, and we're going to go over here and we're just going to snap to the beginning of that line. We're going to snap to the end of it to give the extents of this point control that's overriding. And then we need to locate the point that we want to override. Now, if we remembered what the point was, and here's all the points that were used, we could just go over there and select it, which I think I could probably figure it out that way, no problem. Really the easy way to do it though is just to have your dynamic cross sections up, the view up, and just hover over where that point would be and data point. And you can see up here that it picked up the point. The point was this LOC. And then it says, how do you want to override that point? Strictly just horizontal, vertical, or both. So I'm going to say both. And what type of control here? I'm going to use linear geometry. And then it says select the line that represents that linear geometry. And I'll just toggle through this. Start. These are all just zero offsets. We want to end up exactly where that line is. There we go. And you can see that right through that area, that by adding the point control, it did exactly what I wanted it to do. We maintained that 1 to 3 unless we get into here. And here's another way of just navigating through your dynamic cross sections. So I can release there, and then you can see that through this area, in order to stay within the right-of-way, that the percent slope ended up being 37 instead of 33. And then once I get past to where I can maintain that 1 to 3, that's exactly what it does. And that's exactly how point controls are used. And that's just one tool to override your general template. Okay, what else can we do to continue developing this model? Well, if we go back further, we can see that our back slope did not work at all. And why is that? And that is because we really only had one possibility that we included in that in condition, and that was just to go straight up until it hit existing ground. Well, it's never going to do that. So it just did not work. So what we need to do is we need to have some additional possibilities here. So let's do that. Let's go back to our template library. And let's add a fill condition possibility here. And let's see what options we have to work with. Let's see. And that would also be an in condition. So possibly fill slope. Let's see, which one do I want to use? I would like to have an earth shoulder if possible. Let's see, what can we use here of our in conditions? Fill slope, cut slope, fixed tie, variable slope. Yeah, any of these I could probably, I can see that there's not one exactly what I want. So like I said earlier, if there was, if I can use this as is, I would do so. But I can't. So let's just copy that and place it down into our project templates. And let's modify this and let's make it more like an earth slope. Let's see. I'm going to delete what I don't need here. Let's see. I don't need that. We're not using any topsoil. So let's see. Why don't we just move this hinge up to, let's see. I think what we're going to do is we're not going to use these null points because that's going to be a fixed distance. So why don't we base this point off that EOS point, go out some distance that we might like for our earth shoulder. I forget what we use. I could look it up, but I'm just going to say 3 foot, for example. And then I'll set the slope to, maybe 4%. Oh, let's see. I think I grabbed the wrong one here. Let's do that again. I've got more than what I need here. Let's delete some components. And why don't we just get rid of this extra stuff that we don't need. Again, we could have started from scratch. I just kind of grabbed something that was fairly close and I'm marking it up, moving it around. So we said negative, say 4%. Let's go out a horizontal distance like we said, again from that EOS point, maybe 3 foot. There, so that gives us our earth shoulder. And then we can move on to that next point. And right now that's set at 1 to 33. So we probably want that to be a little flatter. Let's go a 1 to 4, which is a negative 1 to 25. This vertical doesn't really matter so much. Like I said earlier, sometimes I just like to set that to a smaller number so I can see everything a little more closely. And that's really the in condition I was looking for right there. So let's save that component. And so let's go back to our template that we're developing. And then we are going to grab that new in condition that we just created. We will reflect it. And we're going to place it there. And now what we're going to do, of course, we don't want both of these, right? So what we can do is we can keep this being, this is mostly I would say a cut type template. So we'll keep that priority of that component set to 1. And then we'll go down to this other section and then it'll say, well, if it can't do the first one, do this. And by default, it was set to 2. 2's fine. I just typically go with a little higher number in case I need to insert something in the middle of that. And so, okay, so let's go ahead and save, and we will close out of the template that we're continuing to develop. And we will go back to our template drop, and then we're going to sync it up with our library. And there you go. Gave us exactly what we wanted. If we look at this template, it was not able to complete the back slope as a cut section. So it went with the second option, and that was to go with this earth shoulder and then a 1:4 slope. Yeah, exactly. So let's look at our model. We back off. This is looking really good. It's coming along very nicely. And I think we can just do the exact same thing on the other side. So why don't, now that we see it works, I'll go ahead and go back to our template library, and we'll grab that same component, which was this one. Snap it in place. Make sure it's a larger number. And save it. And again, sync it up. There you go. Okay, so in this video we covered point control, and then we also looked at looking at the different options. I need to think what that term is called, where we, priority, it's called just setting priority. So we've got multiple end conditions, and we're setting the priority of those end conditions, and so that worked out well for us. And I think in this case it actually worked for us. That's really all we needed to do, with the exception of at the entrances, and we'll cover that next in the next video on how to handle the entrance. But other than that, I would say we're looking good. We still need to add our existing pavement, but we'll do that in either the next video or the following after that. And then we should be about finished with modeling, and we'll move on to our cross-section sheets, really only to see that all the work that we've done is automatically going to show up in those cross-sections that we set up earlier. So let's end it here.